Hi, this is Weekly Reflections, and I'm Nancy Joy. Returned just the other day from Manhattan, where I went to greet Hurricane Sandy. Quite the experience, and that's where I wanna go with my reflections today. My sister and I had planned very far in advance. We do an annual sister reunion. There's two of us, Val and me. And it's just so much fun in New York, in Manhattan, where my sister has a place. And so I heard maybe 2 or 3 days out, Val was already there. She usually spends the month of October there. And I'd found out about Hurricane Sandy and what was developing, calling it the Frankenstorm and everything. And I sent the link to Val, kind of like with a, what do you think? And she said, well, I feel, I'm on the 10th floor. I feel pretty safe. And, I really went inside myself to meditate about it. And right away, I knew in my heart that I was to go there. I was to be there. And I am. Those of you know me, follow me. I'm a grid worker. We all are. But I mean, that's my passion. Templates and grids and shifting things into compassion and integration. That's, really my life, what I'm all about. And I just connected with the heart of Sandy in my meditation, and I knew I was to be there. So off I went, arriving on Saturday when it hit Monday. And so one thing I wanted to share before I go on with Sandy, because I have got huge amount of information that helped me and I think will help you. But I also, I've been in a few hurricanes, but another one of this nature in 1995 in the Yucatan, when I took my very first ever Heartlights group on a sacred site journey, sacred tour. And I rented a house on the ocean north of Tulum in a little town called Puerto Aventuras. And the second day we were there, we were at Tulum, and the Temple of the Wind spoke. The Temple of the Wind, it wasn't windy. In fact, we didn't even know there was a hurricane coming. The sea was calm at that time, and it was on a Sunday. And we were in the ocean, the group, and we were doing a circle below the Temple of the Wind, a spiritual circle standing in this shallow ocean with the waves coming up. And all of a sudden, this loud, like a conch shell sounds when you blow it? Well, amplify that like probably 20 times. The whole ocean shook. It felt like the whole ocean shook. And everybody got silent and quiet. Everybody around the site, guides, everybody. Later, when we were leaving, I asked a guide what that was. And he said, the Temple of the Wind has spoken, and there is a storm coming, a hurricane, a very serious hurricane coming. The temple was giving a warning, and he said he'd lived in the area, his whole life and never heard it. But his grandfather spoke of the Temple of the Wind sounding and a devastating hurricane. Sure enough, when we got back to the house and we'd gone to this restaurant where we were eating, where they had satellite television, there it was, this hurricane was coming. So there's, nowhere to go. It was going to hit the next day. So we spent the day moving everything upstairs, putting patio furniture in the pool, taping windows, leaving windows open a crack, all the stuff they tell you. And then we were actually kind of wanting to stay there at the ocean for the hurricane. Silly, right? But you have that tendency. But they came and they made us leave. It was the police, the military, whatever, evacuated us to a shelter. And so we went. But before we went, we stood in a circle on the rocks as the surf was building, sky was gray, winds were picking up. It was going to hit that evening. And so we did a circle and we connected our hearts to the heart of Hurricane Roxanne. And our prayer wasn't for it to dissipate. Our prayer wasn't for it to go away. Our prayer was to connect with it and ask it to do whatever it was created to do with the least amount of damage possible. And we understood it had a value and it had a purpose and that we were there for a reason. And then, the next 14 hours we spent in a shelter, but we got to go out and stand in the eye of the hurricane. Now, this hurricane was a Category 3 bordering on Category 4. had wind gusts up to 190 miles an hour and sustained winds of 115 miles an hour. Hurricane Sandy was a massive storm, but the wind gusts were 90 to 100 with sustained winds of 60 to 70. So there was a difference as just almost a Category 1. So we stood in the eye of the hurricane, and again, we connected hearts, and it was so powerful. That energy, the goosebumps, the feelings of standing in the eye, in the heart of Hurricane Roxanne that we had connected to in our hearts. And it was a blissful feeling for some reason. And yet all around us, it was silent still. We were waiting for the second part of the hurricane to hit. There was devastation. We saw tremendous devastation. Almost flattened trees. All the beautiful flowers were completely gone. Everything was brown. Palapa huts blown all over, kind of destruction. Anyway, we finished out that hurricane, and we went and we left. And I knew in my heart, we went on a whole adventure. I won't even go into. If you want to feel what it was really like, I've gotten into it in my book, The Wounded Heart. There's a great hurricane experience in the Yucatan in my book. So it might be good for you to understand that connection and what that's really about. And so I had experience, right? We waited out the storm on my sister's 10th floor apartment in Midtown. As it turned out, the hurricane turned into, I guess they called it something else. I can't remember what they called it, a tropical something. It went from being a swirling hurricane to being a letter C. And we were in the middle of the sea, which was no longer an eye because it wasn't a circle anymore. It was a sea. But in that place, there was wind, no rain, not even extensive wind. But we went by 8 o'clock at night. The power had gone out, and it continued to be out until we left on Friday, and this was Monday night. And so we saw New York City, the city that never sleeps, come to a standstill, black and dark. Now, way uptown, yes, they had lights from 42nd on, I think. They had lights uptown. They did not lose power. But this is an island. You get to it over bridges and tunnels. All the bridges were closed down due to the high winds, and tunnels were flooding. Only remaining access in and out of the island for a few days was the Lincoln Tunnel into New Jersey, which didn't flood. That's an eerie feeling, nowhere to go. And so we went through our time listening to the emergency radio and hearing all the devastation around. It was particularly sad for us what happened to the New Jersey coastline, because my sister and I grew up spending our summers at the Jersey Shore, and it was devastated. It's truly devastated. So anyway, during this time, we bonded, we walked a lot. We left the apartment every morning and walked and experienced things, did things, found some open restaurants, charged our cell phones. We'd go back as it started to get dark. But we did come back one night when we walked through the deep dark with our flashlights of Manhattan, and what a feeling, walking up the 10 flights of stairs in the pitch black. But compared to the devastation we were hearing all around us, this was nothing. We got out Friday, managed to get a flight out of Newark. Newark Airport was pretty empty. It had just opened the day before, and they were just starting to reroute. You know how this messed up the air system everywhere. But in the silence of the hurricane, I just want to share with you what came through and what I learned, because, I think this is important. I bring it up here. Our planet right now, this is what came through. We are ascending into a higher frequency. And the date of our actual ascension, it was given that was actually 12/12/12. And that's why this is such an important time, December 12th, 2012. There's a lot of things going on then, people in different vortexes. I was to be in Egypt. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. But there will be people there, and there'll be people everywhere holding a field for this ascension of our planet. And then on the famous December 21st, 2012, the Earth actually rebirths itself into the higher frequency. And just like a baby, when it's birthed, it isn't ready to do the adult things. It has to learn, it has to grow, it has to become. So 2013 is the beginning of the becoming of the new baby Earth in the higher frequency, adjusting to and creating. And that's going to go on. I got 33 years, 33, 30, around there, 33, 34, 35, around in there. I got 33 years. That's going to be a 33-year journey into adulthood, into the creation of the new Earth, that it can function as an adult. And so we are all have a very powerful assignment coming up, a powerful mission to create with compassion, with love, and with the highest consciousness possible. And yes, there will continue to be big hurricanes, storms, earthquakes, etc. But the good news is that we will be conscious, and we will also be creating and directing these things. Now, here's the next thing. Hurricanes are natural. They're supposed to occur. They help the Earth calibrate and come into alignment with frequencies and energies. And global warming is a fact. I do believe in that. But you know, these hurricanes happened long before there were humans to create global warming. So hurricanes have a value. I know from the moment I connected with Roxanne, and then again with Sandy to make my decision to come to New York, that these hurricanes hold within them a tremendous frequency of change. And actually, if they stayed offshore, and even this hurricane was offshore for many, many, many days, and its trip across the ocean when it was formed, it is actually creating a vibration, a high vibration in the water. And when you think how massive it is, this is affecting everything because, of course, we are mostly water. So, you know, it's something to think about hurricanes. And I don't care whether you believe that these anomalies in the earth or these hurricanes are man-driven by something such as HAARP, or totally Mother Nature's revenge, or karmic in any way. I don't. It doesn't matter what your belief system is. You create. They're here because you're observing them. So you created them in a sense, and you're here for the experience. So my feeling and where I've been directed is to connect with that, be with that, and understand that and use that. So hurricanes have a tremendous amped up frequency. And also remember that as a hurricane, it is really unfolding as you see it develop in a Fibonacci spiral, the sacred ratio. It's also so divine. It's not a horrible thing here to destroy you. So it's good to remember that and think of that way. And then here's the other thing. You do need to remember that we create our own reality. So earth changes come, and they're making adjustments for our greater good. Are they comfortable? No, not necessarily. It's like when you have a really dysfunctional family, and someone in the family goes to a counselor and starts to get help and starts to wake up. Well, creates tremendous change that's uncomfortable for everyone because someone woke up and is saying what really is instead of the horrible patterns that your dysfunction is living under. You know, it's kind of that kind of thing that happens. These things wake us up. We deal with reality. So it doesn't matter what you believe or how they came or who's doing what to whom. What's important is that you understand and connect with them energetically in your heart to understand they are harbingers of change, and they are bringing things into integration and calibration. And sometimes that can be destructive. Right? Sometimes it can be. So as you're thinking of these things, you know, after all is said and done, here's what's important. Don't be silly. Prepare. Prepare for these things because they're happening. More of them are going to come. Have extra food, have extra water, perhaps a generator, whatever that means to you, to prepare. But the best thing you can do to prepare is to connect frequently and often through your heart to Source, because that is going to be your guidance. That's where you're going to know what to do and how to do it by that consciousness, that love, that compassion that you can connect to inside of you. So practice breathing into that. Be able to connect with it in a second. As I found through all of my experiences, no matter the moments of waves of fear that might have washed through me, the minute I connect to that place, I'm integrated, I'm in balance, I'm ready to handle it. And that is more important than the food or the generator. But be prepared on both levels. And certainly, if you're asked to evacuate, evacuate. You don't have to be a hero. You're going to have your experience. So the coming times are exciting. You chose to be here. I hope you found some of this information helpful. I'd love to hear from you, your experiences, and what you're going through. And I'm praying, let's all pray and send beautiful heart energy to those people whose lives have been turned upside down by Hurricane Sandy. And in that shakeup, may they find the new selves that they've always intended to be. Blessings to you. Have a great week, and we'll see you again next week.